Gorilla Geek going 10.8. What's up, guys? This video here is primarily going out to one individual. This is just a preface of what we're talking about to an antenna installation at your home or whatever, and how to load a single tower antenna with multiple antennas. And so the rest of you guys could just tag along, and for the one individual that I'm corresponding with, this has turned out to be a pretty big job, even to do the preliminary test. But don't sweat it, because I have to do this anyway for my own benefit, because I'm in the same boat as you are as far as trying to build a tower here on my home. So between my kids taking up all my time and having an hourly crisis, and the wife giving me all sorts of honeydews and countless numbers of interruptions, I couldn't get it all done this weekend. But I managed to get the heavy stuff out of the way and set to go, where during the week, this upcoming week, I could go ahead and do the fine details of interconnecting all the radios together. Also sort of having an outline of what I want to test, and I want to test as many combinations of stuff that I can think of that would be affecting our installations when it comes to multiple antennas on a mast. So it's everything I could think of. So next weekend is just going to be dedicated to just testing. Everything will be in place, and all I got to do is just sit down and do the numbers and film and see what works. But this weekend, this past weekend, was building the test bed, or the mock setup. And this is kind of sort of part of my installation as well, so I'm still sort of helping my own cause in the home front here. And I already had a connection here to this antenna. This antenna I have here is a high gain VHF antenna for the public safety frequencies, and it closely resembles your antenna that you purchased as far as size, but it's only one band VHF. It's not a dual bander. So this has around 6 dBs of gain, exactly like yours on the VHF band. And I managed to tune this into the ham band. It's not rated for it, but I put a little bit extra length in there, and I was able to tune it to that frequency. So that's good. It'll replicate your setup almost exactly on a VHF side. And the other cable here, I have a Jim Slin antenna to represent the scanner antenna. And this is a dual bander, VHF and UHF, and it has some kind of weird properties because it's a folded dipole, but it closely resembles your scanner antenna, but it has a little bit extra more performance on the VHF and UHF range, which is kind of good, because we want to have that maximum transfer of power to see how we could configure the setup to sort of get the interference and the code channel desensitizing away. So that's good as far as testing. If we could get any interference and power from messing with each other on this setup here, your final setup will be really good. So, and I have this on a tripod here, the height over there, and on the tripod I could play around with the length between here and there between the two antennas. So we're going to test for the antennas, the two antennas being side by side, and how close they could be with each other before they start to kind of interfere with each other and stuff like that, kind of what we discussed about in the past month or two. So that'll be that. And that's already set up. I got the connections, the cable run, and this is ready to go for next weekend's testing. So I'm good there. The length from here to my other termination point inside the garage is approximately 100 feet. And from out here, I could control the radio inside the house remotely out here, transfer from inside the house, so I could take measurements outside here without having to be interfered with the radio inside the the garage. So that's part of my setup there, and I have to interconnect that, but that'll be within the week. That's easy peasy. So this is where the conduit ends, right here in the back patio, and there's the two cables coming up from the hill. I have it run right inside my garage here on this plate here, and everybody else who's listening, bear in mind, this is not your typical setup. This is not ideal. This is just for testing. And I didn't do the grounding and the tying and all those, the devil's in the details. I didn't do none of that stuff. This is just for testing. So, and if it works in this configuration, it will be a kick-ass installation. But in the next video, the part 2, 3, or 4, whenever I get to it, is when I'll do it officially and by the book. So here inside the garage, there's the 2 same lines coming in, and it's going to go right into my world famous cable spool here, tabletop. And we have a scanner back there, just a regular Jane Plain scanner, but it's got the wideband receiver there that it doesn't filter out everything. It's designed to let everything come in. So we want to sort of set the configuration where your VHF, UHF ham radio will not interfere with your scanner, and your CB won't interfere with none of this other stuff, and vice versa. It's a real challenge having to put multiple antennas on one antenna mast for hobbyists and just amateur guys out there. The bigger organizations and stuff, they have these filters here. Like this one right here is VHF filter, cavity filter, and the 4 smaller ones there are for UHF. And even for 40-30 year old used equipment, it is expensive. This is not mine. This is just borrowed for visual demonstrations, and I can't use this. I'm in the same boat. I gotta get stuff out of my own pocket and build it myself. But this is what it takes to sort of have those towers that have those antennas, multiple antennas on the same mast, and they're close to each other. That's because they have these filters here to filter out all the unwanted frequencies. And most times those frequencies are set to one channel, and the more radios you add to the mix, the more cavities you got to build. It just gets really painful exponentially as far as trying to design one. So for everyone else that's listening, the goal is to have multiple antenna in one mast. Keep it somewhat on the down low where the public won't see it, because it's going to be in somebody's property, and they don't want like an antenna farm being, you know, showed to the world, and not to interfere with each other, the radios themselves. And the one way to sort of bypass going the expensive route, using filters and cavities and stuff, is antenna placement. According to the frequency that they are tuned for, what radios are being transmitted through them, and all sorts of other factors. And I don't think on YouTube or anywhere else I've seen this subject covered, and I figure I'll take the opportunity to kind of dive into it, because like I said, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to set up my setup is only 2 radios, a scanner and a UHF VHF ham radio, and possibly more later on, but they'll be in other locations. But that is the goal, to put 3 antennas on one mast, and in such a way that they will not interfere with each other. Or another problem will be having the power of one radio going directly into the scanner or another radio and blowing the final circuits on it through the antenna port. So this guy will transmit 45 watts. If this antenna is right next to it, it could blow up the circuitry inside this radio here. I think so. My scanner setup is set to go, and it's tuned just right for next week's testing. My VHF radio, this one transmits 45 watts. I just got to hook up the power supply, the remote control unit, and also the antenna is not tuned properly. I thought I had it dialed in, but I guess when I finally put everything in place, it kind of changed frequency. This big old dip's supposed to be right here. So that antenna I got up there is adjustable. That's why I'm able to kind of change the frequency on it. So I forgot to mention that this configuration that I set up here, I could make any configuration that we talked about in our PMs. Here I have a spare CB antenna that I could put into the mix. I don't have a CB to sort of test or anything, but I could at least receive it by way of the scanner and test for any interference from other devices transmitting. And I have a bar here where I could just put a crossbar there, like we talked about, 18 inches away from the center mass and all that good stuff, and move it up and down, test all the distances, and have the most optimal installation, like I said, to alleviate a lot of the problems that could arise from doing something like this, multiple antennas. And this here, kind of like what you purchased, is the telescopic monopole tower thing here. Mine is looks like it's 30 feet. I got 3 sections that I could telescope up, so it's almost identical to yours. But my case will be, I'll be doing a scanner antenna and a dual band antenna, where your installation will be 3 antennas: scanner, CB, and a dual band ham radio antenna. I'm just repeating that for everybody else who's interested in knowing what we're doing here, without giving too much information. OPSEC, fully understand. So I'm actually excited about doing this test the way we're approaching this, because it's going to help out a lot of people out there. It's going to help me tremendously because I'm in the same boat, and this just needs to be documented for future references for everybody else. Like I said, real life is just getting in the way. I got to be a daddy and a husband and everything, so that's what's taking up some of my time here. And next weekend for sure I'll be running those tests, but this has turned out to be somewhat of a labor intensive setup here just to do the testing. So Gorilla Geek going 10-10. Stand by.